Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Shankaram Lokashankaram. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram Sadgurum Brahmavidvaram. Om Partaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Graditam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Stunvanti Devyai Stavai Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadai Gayanti Yam Samagah Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam na vidusura Suraganah Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Hari. Bhagavan Sri Krishna said, always perform actions and do so without attachment. The conduct of great men set the standard for the rest of the society. You yourself may not have anything to gain by acting, but it is important for the leaders in the society to be role models. And he gives the example of himself. Yadihyam yadihyaham navarteyam jatu karmani atantratah mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. If I do not do my duties tirelessly, if I don't do it enthusiastically and at all times, I do not deserve to be called a leader. The entire society is ready to take my lead. If I go wrong, it will just affect the entire society. I must be a responsible leader. And Arjuna, you should also be one. Utside yurime lokaha nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyamimah prajah. If I do not do my duties, the people in the society will not do theirs either. And the entire society will perish. If I do not set an example, there will be chaos. It will be creating confusion in the minds of people with regard to their duties. So Bhagavan says, I continue to act because I'm a responsible leader. And Arjuna, you should also be such a leader. And people look up to you. So you should be one too. Now Bhagavan spells out what the leadership means and gives guidelines for being a leader. Sakta karmani avidvamsah yata kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvams tata asaktah chikishuhu loka sangraham. Just as the ignorant people work, and they do so with great enthusiasm, but along with that, there is attachment also. So the wise men must also work, but without attachment. You may recall in yesterday's class in Panchadashi, we were talking, Vidyaranya Swami was talking about how the ignorant man is attached to the body. And he was saying that in the same way, you should be so motivated to gain that Atma, to identify with Atma. So that is the idea in that verse. Same idea here. Just as the ignorant man is attached to action, but he is attached to those actions and the results of the action. Enthusiasm is there. Dynamism is there. But he is acting with attachment. Now the advice is you also act vigorously, enthusiastically, dynamically. But the subtle difference, one small difference, you do so without attachment. That's all. And if you don't act, the society will be saying, he calls himself a great leader and he does nothing. So why should I do anything? So you'll be setting a bad example. So that is the point here. In terms of dynamism, enthusiasm, etc., performance of action should be the same. One small difference with attachment in the case of ignorant people, whereas the jnanis also should work the same way, but without attachment. Why is it that ignorant people have so much attachment to their action and to the fruits of action? How come the wise remain unattached? The ignorant man has a strong sense that I am the doer. I did it, he claims. So when I do something, naturally I have a lot of attachment to the action and its results. The body attachment, I was talking to you, when I say body, not only the physical body, the entire, the mind, etc., kartatva bhava, etc. So while acting, the ignorant man has this I attitude, aham bhava, I am doing it. Aham karta, I am the doer. That bhava is there in Shastra. It is this ahankara that differentiates the ignorant from the wise man. Arjuna, you be such a leader And when you act, na buddhi bedam janayet, ajnanam karma sanginam, joshayet sarva karmani, vidwan yuktas samacharan. When you act, one thing that you should keep in mind, do not cause disturbance in the minds of the materialistic people. The ignorant people, materialistic people, they are working very hard with great enthusiasm, but with attachment to materialistic goals. Number one, you should be working with the same vigor, but without attachment. And then you know the difference. Okay? And so on day one, don't start preaching. Don't go hold of that fellow and say, you're doing very well, but don't you be attached to the results. Don't you be attached to the action. And don't start doing that. Let them do. And slowly turn the people around. So this was the advice given, and this is what we have seen so far. And now, today, the two verses, 27 and 28, that we will see are very important. They contain the very essence of the Upanishads. Lord Sri Krishna talks about the technical difference between an action performed by a jnani and the action performed by an ajnani. What is the difference in their attitude? The way they look at the action and the way they perform the actions. First, I will give you a gist of these two verses, and then we will look at the verse. Every individual has two eyes, not these two eyes. I, the letter I am talking about. Okay. The first person, singular pronoun, I. One is the lower I, called ahankara, ego, which expresses as karta, the doer, bhokta, the experiencer. This is what we call ahankara. That is one I, little I. And there is yet another I, the real I, the higher I. And this is the Atma, the Sakshi Chaitanyam. We have discussed this before, about the higher I before. I, called the Atma, is of the nature of Chaitanyam, consciousness, pure, original consciousness. And Bhagavan uses the word Purusha for that. And that does not mean a man. Purusha also means man, but that's not the meaning here. Okay? That Atma, Purusha, consciousness, is neither male or female. So, when you see the word Purusha, don't take the wrong meaning. So, what is the Chaitanya Swarupam, the nature of consciousness? That consciousness is not part of the body. It is not a property of the body. It is not a product of the body, but it is an independent entity. It's independent. It pervades, enlivens the body. We say it is in the body, but it is not limited by the boundaries of the body. Physically also, time-wise also, it survives the death of the body. It's an eternal, all-pervading principle. This consciousness is our real I. The aim of all spiritual sadhanas is to discover that and own up, claim that higher I am. And when I do that, I am immortal. A jnani is the one who has owned up to this higher self. Then what is the lower self? This is mainly in the mind. The mind itself is a located entity, located in this body. The mind is enlivened by the higher I. The mind by itself is inert, jada. It's a product of matter, so it is insentient. But in the presence of the pure original consciousness, it gets enlivened. It has the ability, though, to reflect consciousness. Along with the reflected consciousness, it becomes a live mind. So I say live mind because by itself it is inert only. Touched by the reflected consciousness, it becomes alive. And that live mind is the lower I. Now it has a lot of thought modifications. Vrittis are there in that mind. Aham karta, I am the doer. I am the enjoyer, bhokta, all this. These are all thought modifications. That is the mind, that is the ahankara. It operates there and experiences through this body all sukha dukkha, joys and sorrows. That ahankara is a finite entity. That inert mind, when it gets touched by consciousness, then it becomes alive. Till that time, it is inert. And when that says goodbye, then it becomes inert again. So it has a beginning, it has an end. It's a finite entity. It is the ahankara that drops this body and takes up another body. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. This cycle of rebirths is for this ahankara, dropping one body, taking up another. This is the lower I. And every one of us is a mixture of both. Atma and ahankara. Both are there. And both of them are located in the same place. That is why it is difficult to separate them. Once we are born as a human being, we have the biggest choice in life. That choice is whether I should continue to be that miserable ahankara, the lower I, or I claim my original glory. We talk about so many rights, human rights, children's rights, wife's rights, minority rights, workers' rights, so on and so forth. Vedanta says, all right, you're talking about all these rights, but you are not claiming one right as a human being. And that is the right to claim your infinite glory. That you are that pure consciousness, that Atma you are. You are ignoring that. Once you claim that, you are free, you are liberated. You have attained moksha. But you're not doing that. It's like, say, a little boy, a minor. He may not even learn to read and write. But he's heir to an inheritance of millions of dollars upon the death of his father. Let us. That little boy does not know his richness. Okay. He may be quarreling for little marbles with other kids. Okay. We are like that little boy who does not know his great wealth. We are that Satchit Anand. We are that bliss personified. That's what we are. Instead, we beg for some love, some security, some joy in finite little things. We suffer from so much emotional deprivation. We go with a begging bowl from person to person. The beauty of this wealth is that every human being can claim this infinite bounty. Once you claim that infinite happiness, that you are indeed that, you not only have that, but you can spread it around too. Instead of going around begging for happiness from others, you can spread that happiness to others. So the higher I and the lower I are the two identifications. Bhagwan says the ajnani, the ignorant man, stays at the lower I level all the time. Therefore, he is always dissatisfied. Here and there, he will get glimpses of happiness. Sorrowful, miserable, unhappy, and one ray of happiness. Then again sorrowful. This is how life goes on. Permanently apurnam, incomplete. One apurnam plus another apurnam will still be apurnam. Finite Jeff Bezos plus finite Elon Musk will still be finite only. Add up all the billions of dollars, it will still be a finite number. Thus, a man who claims the lower I with a miserable ahankara suffers in miserable samsara. On the contrary, the jnani who has discovered the higher I, for him, the lower I, the ahankara, will continue, but only for transaction purposes. From the vision of the higher I, the lower I and the consequent problems become insignificant. Just like when you're flying in a plane, you peer out of the window at 39,000 feet, everything on the ground looks puny little dots. On the ground, it may be a 20, 30 stories tall building, but up there, tiny dot. So elevate yourself to the higher I. A jnani, looking from that higher plane of consciousness, sees everything lower to be minute. None of the lower effects disturb him. He has discovered something great. The 27th verse talks about the ignorant man who is working in this world centered on ahankara. And the 28th verse talks about the wise man working in this world again, but all the time centered on the Atma. The wise man is not affected by the ups and downs of the world. Let us read verse 27. Prakritehe kriyamaanani gunaih karmani sarvashah गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहङ्कारविमूढात्मा अहङ्कारविमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते कर्ताहमिति मन्यते प्रकृतेः क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहङ्कारविमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते. So Bhagavan talks about the Ajnani in this verse. He gives him a title. Ahankara Vimudhatma. All the samsaris are absorbed in so much ahankara, they have not discovered their higher self. And so every problem of ahankara gets magnified. Ajnani, who is ahankara vimudah, meaning deluded by his ego, the false identifications. He is lost in the lower I. So in this verse, there are a few technical words that we have to define and understand. The first word is prakriti. I've told this several times. A word has different meanings in different contexts. So we should be aware of this and make sure we understand the right meaning in a particular context. The word prakriti here means the basic matter principle, otherwise called as Maya. You've seen this before. Maya is called Prakriti. Maya Prakriti, we say. And you can say it is a subtlest form of energy, although, I don't really like such terms. We have already seen the definition of Maya elsewhere. Most of you have a good handle on that. So, the next word you should note is guna. Here, guna also, there are several meanings. Quality, attribute, etc. is one meaning. A rope is called guna. So many meanings are there. But here, guna means karya, product, an effect, a vikara, modification. So prakriti means matter, the subtle form, the cause, and guna means a product, the effect. Together it means prakriti guna means product of matter. Any material in the creation is prakriti guna, an effect of that maya, effect of that matter. We can call every one of them prakriti guna. Everything you see around is prakriti guna. Even though prakriti guna means any material in creation, in this context, what is specifically meant is that it refers to body, mind, intellect. It refers to you and I. BMI complex. We'll just call it body. So when I say body, it's just not the gross body alone, subtle body, mind, intellect, everything. So the body, mind, intellect, BMI, is a product of Prakriti. When you study the topic of creation in Vedanta, and we have done that in several texts, it is said that from Maya Prakriti, the 5 subtle elements came first. Subtle elements. And from this from those subtle elements, and that too from the subtle aspect of these subtle elements, the sense organs are born. And from the rajasic aspect of the elements, collective rajasic aspect, the pranas come. Then the gross elements come from the gross aspect of the subtle elements. And they form the basis for gross matter. They go through the process of panchikarana and all that. Some of you are familiar with that. If you have not seen this before, does not matter. Just understand our body is a product of that Prakriti Maya. It is matter in nature. It is inert, jada. Even though the body is inert by itself, we see them alive. Okay? Body you say are inert, but your body is moving around. Your hands move up and down, you walk around, you think. So many things are happening. You are not jada, like a rock or a chair or a table which stays in its place unless it is moved by somebody else. You're not like that. You're alive. You are sentient. That is because of what? That is because of that consciousness that is borrowed from the Atma. As I had said earlier, the mind has a unique ability to reflect that consciousness. And by borrowing, reflecting that consciousness, the mind becomes sentient. It also is able to lend that consciousness to the sense organs and the physical body, etc., and everything comes alive. This is how the otherwise inert BMI becomes a sentient BMI. No different from various electrical equipment, be it a bulb or the radio or the TV, anything that you have. When it is not hooked up to electricity, and electricity does not flow through that, it cannot give out its light or the sound or anything like that. Even when it is hooked up, but there is a power failure, none of those gadgets will work. But when the electricity is there, then they all are able to do their thing. They become alive. Prakriti Guna body, it's the same way, enlivened by the reflected consciousness. They are sentient. That is called ahankara. So the final meaning of Prakriti Guna is ahankara. Now look at the first line. Prakritehe gunaihi kriyamanani. All the actions are performed by Prakriti Gunas alone. Kriyamanani, all actions. Prakritehe gunaihi. They are done by this Prakriti Guna, by ahankara. By the body-mind complex, the ahankara. And Bhagwan adds, sarvashah, under all conditions. It is the ahankara that alone acts. What can you deduce from that statement? Ahankara alone can act means Atma does not do any action. Consciousness does not do any action. All your actions are done by your hands, legs, various other karmendriyas, and then the mind does its thinking and all that. That's how actions go on. But by themselves, they are inert, but touched by consciousness, they have that ability. It is just like light. Whichever room you are sitting in, wherever I am sitting in, so many objects are there. And we say, what's in that room? We start listing this, and this. We very conveniently forget about that light. It is in the presence of light, everything has come alive. But we take that for granted. Light illumines all that. At the same time, it does not get involved in any of the objects that are illumined by it. Can we say the light is not necessary since it doesn't do anything? Does not perform any action? But then, without that light, you'll be groping in darkness. You cannot do any action. In the same way, Atma by itself does not do any action. But without that Atma, the Ahankara cannot act. So Bhagavan says, Sarvashaha Ahankara alone does all the actions. So what? In the second line, Ahankara Vimudhatma, all the ignorant people are deluded by this Ahankara. This Karta, Bhokta, Ahankara. The doer. This means being lost in Ahankara, being carried away by Ahankara. They are deluded to such an extent that they do not even think of their higher real nature. If they claim the higher nature, they can enjoy absolute freedom, infinite joy. It's something like a beggar. When someone comes and tells him that his uncle who died took pity on him, leaving him a huge inheritance. But the beggar says, no, don't bother me now. I'm busy begging. I cannot go and claim that inheritance now. It's like that. Similarly, our scriptures say, immortality is your birthright. Infinite bliss is your nature. All that you need to do is to claim that. But everybody is so busy with the activities of Ahankara. Identify with that. So the Ahankara makes you get lost in karmas. Therefore, such a person is called Ahankara Vimudhatma. He does not ask the question, am I really this miserable Ahankara? Or am I something else? Simple questions. Kastvam koham kutayatah kame atah. He doesn't ask these questions. Who am I? Kastvam koham kutayatah. From where did I come? Kome janani, who is my mother? Kome tatah, who is my father? Where did I come from? Such questions we don't ask. And even if we ask, we are satisfied with some simple answer. So-and-so is my mother, so-and-so is my father. We don't further ask, where did they come from? Oh, okay, grandfather, grandparent. Okay. Like that, we don't go to the root cause. We don't do that. After one or two layers, we stop. Don't overtax my brain. I can handle it. So the Lord says, the deluded, ignorant person, karta aham iti manyate, thinks I am the karta, the doer. Ajnani claims I am the karta, I am the bhokta. Instead of claiming aham brahma asmi, that is the reality. this is what he does. He is a Vimudhatma, a fool. Bhagavan says he has a PhD in foolishness. So that's what he is. Then what about the Jnani? Let us read verse 28. Tattvavittu mahabaho. Tattvavittu mahabaho. Gunakarma vibhagayo. Gunakarma vibhagayo. Guna guneshu vartante. Guna guneshu vartante. Iti matva na sajjate. Iti matva na sajjate. Tattvavittu mahabaho. Gunakarma vibhagayo. Guna guneshu vartante. Iti matva na sajjate. So we've seen Ajnani is caught up in the lower self. He is ignorant of his higher self. Therefore, he is attached to his actions. He is attached to the fruits of actions. And so he suffers. This is the miserable lot of an Ajnani. What about a Jnani? Jnani also enlivened by the reflected consciousness. Therefore, he also has ahankara. What happens in the case of a Jnani is, since he has discovered the higher self, the Atma, it makes the ahankara very light. It is no more a toxic ahankara. That ahankara is compared to roasted seeds. When the seed is roasted, it is not destroyed. It's very much there, but it cannot germinate. Similarly, the Jnani's ahankara is there. It will eat, it will drink, it will sleep. It's a functional ahankara. But it does not give rise to kartrutva bhoktrutva bhava. That is the difference. It's a non-binding ahankara. That ahankara becomes an alankara for him. Those poisonous snakes that we are all afraid. Lord Shiva, he wears it. It's a bhushanam for him. It's an alankara. He knows how to handle that. This ahankara is like that. It has poison in it. It makes you suffer. But once you're able to defang that, you can wear that. And with the same body, mind, intellect, you can do so many things. And you can wear it like an alankara, an ornament. That's it here. Look at the verse. Hey Mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna, tu, but Ajnani, Tattvavit, Tattvavit, one who knows the truth, the Tattva. What truth? Guna karma vibhagayoho. Guna here is Prakriti, that we talked about in the earlier verse, a product of BMI complex, the ahankara, otherwise called as karta and karma. He knows all that clearly. He knows all actions belong to ahankara alone, and no actions belong to him, the Atma. Such a knowledge is very clear to him. The vibhaga, this differentiation, the division, he knows very well. Therefore, he knows that ahankara cannot give up action. As long as it is there, as karta, it does the action. He knows actions continue at the ahankara level, and he allows ahankara to work in the world without any resistance. The ajnani identifies with ahankara and acts. That is the difference between him and a jnani. Jnani knows the truth of guna and karma, ahankara, its actions, while allowing ahankara to do its things governed by prarabdha. So what does he do? Here Bhagavan says beautifully, guna guneshu vartante. Ahankara is also prakriti guna, product of basic matter. BMI, and this guna hai, guneshu vartante. The world is also the same thing. Product of the same Maya Prakriti. So the Ahankara BMI, a product of matter, it plays around with another set of product of matter. Ahankara has three gunas, the world also has three gunas. So Ahankara and the world, they are eternally interacting. You cannot stop that interaction. You have to accept all that. I have to face the world and interact with the world. Jnani knows that guna tante. Ahankara will interact with the world. Then how is he able to allow that to happen? He knows even when ahankara is interacting, I have a higher nature, which is of the nature of chaitanyam, consciousness, that is not affected by any of these interactions. Just as the activities of the dream world does not affect the waker. Similarly, the higher I am not affected by either the karma or karma phala. Jnani knows this fact. The only way is to discover your higher self. So you may let the ahankara interact with the world without getting affected by such interactions. Thus, iti matva, with this knowledge, knowing this, na sajjate, he does not get attached to the activities of ahankara. He is able to look at his own ahankara objectively. He has no attachment. He looks at his body, mind, intellect, the entire complex as an object objectively. After all, our problem is not with the death of the body itself. We see death all around. Read the obituary column in the newspaper. That does not really affect us. And we may even be very philosophical about that. Other people's death. If you have studied Gita, and you have, in the second chapter, because we are in the third chapter now, we've studied, and we will even quote, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu. Anything that is born has to die. I am very objective about all other bodies and what happens to them. The reason I'm not able to accept the death of my body or those bodies near and dear to me is the attachment. I've lost my objectivity. Vedanta does not change the facts of life. Vedanta gives me objectivity. I am able to look at my body that is the closest to me and to other close relative as one of the bodies in the world and apply the same rule objectively. The problem is that we look at our BMI complex subjectively. We get identified with that. We do not want to accept the laws of nature when it comes to our body. This is what an ignorant man does. The jnani, on the other hand, looks at everything with the vision of the universal law. And he does not protest against any event in his life. He gracefully accepts old age, separation, sickness, poor health, even the death of the body. This resistance-free acceptance is called Jivan Mukti, liberation while living. So Bhagavan says, Iti Matva, with this knowledge, with this objectivity, na sajjate, he remains detached. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.